Good evening. Welcome to a special edition of tonight's show. My name is Aaron Yates, and this is Kerrville United. Tonight we bring you an interview with one of the applicants to fill the City Council seat that was left vacant by Mr. Gene Allen. As you'll remember from our previous episodes, Mr. Allen resigned from his seat last week with about a year remaining on his term.
Yeah, and we may have some more information to share you with from Mr. Allen here in the future, but tonight we hear from one of the local people who would like to try to take his place. We learned of Brandon's intention to apply for the seat on Facebook and invited him to be here with us. And that way our viewers could get to know him a little bit better and perhaps decide on if he's the right man for the job.
And just to clarify, the show tonight is not an endorsement of Mr. Rodriguez or anything like that. We'll let you all decide for yourself if you support him or not. We'll also be glad to give equal time to other applicants who might be interested in coming on the show. So it's really just education, a chance to get to know Brandon a little bit. Please comment on this video or give us a call if you would like to be on the show, if you're looking to be appointed to that position. And go ahead and comment live and give us some questions that you'd like to ask Brandon.
Yeah, like we said, we're live right now, and we can see all his questions coming in right now too. So without further ado, let's go ahead and meet our guest, Brandon. Thanks for being here with us tonight.
I'm so excited to be here, actually. This is way cool things that you guys are doing. And honestly, if there's any other applicants really that want to be placed on the City Council, I think that this is a great avenue for them to do that within the community. So thank you guys for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Well, first off, what do you think is the main reason why you really want to try to serve here on this Kerrville City Council?
Well, first, let's talk about my background. Okay,
Sure.
So first of all, I was raised on $10,000 a year from my grandparents. The other thing is that I'm also a minority, a Hispanic. Now, one of the things that is concerning to me here in the city of Kerrville is that there is no representation in the city government for minorities, which is really strange. We think that Kerrville is a retirement community, but here's some figures that I got from 2010, the Census Bureau. 86.3% are Anglo, 27.4% are Hispanic or Latino or Chicano, 6.8% are foreign born, 3.1% are African American, 2.4% are considered two or more races, and 0.01% are Native Hawaiian. Yet, the council does not reflect that type of demographic. And it's kind of disheartening for something like that to happen. So I think that the council right now, they're at a pivotal point where they are able to make a decision to place someone in there that can represent the minority of the city of Kerrville. And also, the age demographic of the city of Kerrville is something that we should not oversee. People by the ages of 20 to 24, there are 1,512 people. 25 to 34, there are 2,249. 35 to 49 are 3,497. That makes up 7,258. That was in 2010. We know that there was a 3% increase from them to recent. So I think with the minorities of over 9,000 residents here, and with the younger generation of over 7,000, where's the representation? Honestly, where is it?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. You know, a lot of younger people here are trying to get more involved here into the City Council, just like our show here. So I agree with a lot of those things. I think, if it wasn't just, excuse my French, old white people, it might help out a little bit. I mean, Aaron and I are from here. You know, we grew up with everybody. We all went to the same high school. Minorities, everybody was friends. And I think that's how Kerrville really is. I was talking to some friends this weekend, and they were saying, and these guys were Hispanic, and they said, hey, how come there's no Hispanics on the board or on the city council? And I said, well, that's a good question. I said, to tell you the truth, not very many run.
Right.
And because they feel maybe intimidated or something else. But I think it's going to be good to get that word out.
Well, and that's exactly right. There is an absolute disconnect from the city government now to minorities and to the younger generation, and also to those who are in poverty. In 2010, we're at 15.6% of people who are in poverty. So if you're making between $28,000 to $39,000 a year, that was the average median income for the city of Kerrville. In my family, at that age, you were considered rich. But I know so many people in the city of Kerrville that that have 1, 2, 3 jobs. They're just trying to make ends meet. I have personally gone to my house and I didn't have any electricity. So anytime that there is a tax increase, anytime that there is some type of economic development that is not intended for those who have no voice, which I'm talking about the poor, those who may not have an education but are still very smart, that just wants to make ends meet, $25 a month on top of whatever it is can make a huge difference. I do not want to see the city of Kerrville go into a direction of the same old, same old. Honestly, we know, and I can look at the city of Kerrville and I can look at those who are part of this area and the volunteers. And yes, they are mostly Anglo. But why is that? Because there is not a place and there's not representation for minorities out there. And we seriously need that, honestly.
Well, I commend you on going ahead and putting your name out there because you're going to be looked up to. And I think that's what's important.
Well, I think what's important is not that I want to be looked up to. I think it's important to have a voice out there. We have over 500 businesses that are minority owned, and no one has that type of representation out there.
True.
Why don't we have that? Now, I don't come just out of nowhere and without any qualifications. And let me clear that up. I was a former news anchor for KVHC. Some of you might know me. I was an executive director for the Underground TV. Why is that important to be an executive director of the Underground TV? On Kerrville's website, it states Kerrville is the hub and home to world-class artists, artisans, and performers. Vibrant performing arts, folk art, art and music venues, restaurant shops, museums, and galleries. Yes, and I am the only one. Anyone that comes up over here, myself and other executive people from the Shriner community were able to place the Underground TV and showcase local artists. So before I'm even running, I'm already promoting the city of Kerrville for those local artists that we are talking about, which incidentally are in the same age group of the 7,000, but still have no representation.
Perfect.
So as we go and we talk about city council representation, and our viewers who may not know, this seat is a seat that's going to be vacant. Somebody will fill that seat for about a year until the next election happens next May. The weird dynamic about this council now is that when someone is appointed, there will be 3 out of 5 seats that are actually appointed instead of elected. Do you think that affects the dynamic of how the council operates, or should it affect the decision making, or just how does it kind of affect things at the council level, do you think?
I think with right now, appointing someone and being elected. So I know that I saw on one of the council meetings, someone said that one of the mayor or the council people had that type of majority. Let's get this straight. 3,000 people have been voted, are the ones that voted. But we have over 22,000 people in the city of Kerrville. Honestly, that is not the majority. That was the majority of people who voted, not the majority of those who actually are being represented. And I think that it's important that we place someone in there that can have that type of voice for those who are not, represented right now. And I think it's very important, especially we have 2 council members that are coming up. One of the things that I have an issue with is we don't have any transportation for those people who are in the 15.9%, who maybe do not have transportation. So one of the things that I'm going to personally do, and one of the things that a group, we're going to get together and we are going to have a voter drive. That means not only registering people to vote, but taking them to the polls, because that's very, very important.
I agree.
That's
I
right.
think the Kerrville United would be happy to help with that. For
Good.
Sure.
Yeah, and we do have a nice trend in turnout, though. I was getting the stats today before the show. 2013, we only had about 7% turnout of registered voters. 2014 and 2015 had about 14%. then 2016 up to 18%, like you said, with 3,200 people voting.
Yeah.
So we do get the copies of the voters' rolls, and we can put where those voters are on the map to be able to see where they are. Very few coming from, the poorer sides of town, the poorer districts. How do you energize those people to become involved in local politics?
Place someone into the council that they can communicate with. I'm sorry, but the policy of closed doors, closed ears should not be occurring. If I'm placed in there, I'm going to have open ears for all people, no matter what your social status is, no matter what your financial status is, no matter what your sexual orientation is, no matter what your origin is. I want to listen. We need fresh set of eyes, which is what one of the council members said, the outgoing council member and another one, fresh set of eyes. The only way that we can do that is to place someone in there with a fresh set of eyes. It makes perfect sense. I have no affiliation whatsoever with anyone on the council. I have no direct contact with anyone on the council. I am not part of a group with anyone on the council that's utilizing a facility by someone on the council. Nothing. So, and the only business that I do here, which I love doing, is I sell residential real estate to first-time home buyers. That is what I do. I take them out of rental and put them into home ownership, which is great for tax purposes, right?
Which is not easy to do in Kerrville either. To make someone go from rental to owning in Kerrville, I just bought a house. It's not easy to do, and I've told City Council that same thing. Sal Ybarra has a good point here. He says he thinks River Hills and Comanche Trace are well represented within the City Council, with a little happy face with little tears, obviously a little sarcasm there. So like you're saying, that goes to support your ideas of getting more representation from outside those areas.
And the way that we do that, where's the transparency? I saw a lot of this, a certain group talk about transparency, and yet there's no transparency. That's behind closed doors, behind a certain facility owned by a certain person on the council. So the transparency is how do we energize people? How about we, as community, as volunteers, as those that are not represented, how about we volunteer in such places like the Doyle Community Center? I feel that center has been here and has done really good for the community, and I feel, honestly, that it is lost within the city government or anything. It does not take much to go over there and have a town hall meeting for those who are less represented, doesn't it?
Yep. I agree with some of the things you're saying. It sounds good. We got to have good representation out there.
So. Now, one of the qualifications, and I'm sorry, the other thing that I ran for city council in the city of Arlington with over 300,000 people. What I did was I fought for creation of jobs. I fought for the Dallas Cowboys Stadium to go to the city of Arlington prior to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium being there. I fought for voter registration. Now, and I was the chairman of the Teen Court Advisory Board there. No, I wasn't chairman of teens. I was chairman of a teen court advisory group within the city of Arlington, which helped juvenile offenders take responsibility for their actions, increase awareness of the law, teach them to make better decisions for the future, and promote community involvement. Wouldn't Kerrville benefit from something like that? I would love to see that here.
Yeah. Here's another question off Facebook here. Tony Farmer Guerra. He says that it seems like public transportation seems to be a real problem here. Would Kerrville help support any efforts towards public transportation, or would you support that kind of stuff?
I think that's huge because, again, I was raised on $10,000 a year. I saw my grandfather work every single day, walk to and from work, whether it was raining, shining, hailing, anything. Never see him miss a day in his life. Luckily, he was close to work, but we had to walk. I didn't have a car of my own. So I understand that there is the lack of the transportation here. And I would totally support some type of transportation because I believe that, again, 15.6% of the people who are living in poverty sometimes cannot afford transportation. And I'm sorry, but they might have something, and then one day, one little occurrence on the car happens, and they no longer have that vehicle because they cannot afford to repair it. So how are they going to get to work? How are we going to support them? Well, we bring public transportation, and I believe that that's something that Kerrville should look at.
Yeah, I think
We're widespread.
Yeah, for sure. And not only the younger people that don't have the financial means for transportation, also the older people. I'm a physical therapist. I see it all the time. They depend heavily on ART, Alamo Regional Transit, and they have to call days in advance, set up their time, get picked up 2 hours early, get dropped off, get picked up 4 hours late sometimes. So it's not very efficient.
And the question always comes up of how to pay for something like that. Of course, you know, we do have the $3 million a year more or less that goes to the EIC through 4B sales tax money. So potentially maybe that could be a combination quality of life and economic development project that we can look at in the future.
That'd be great. Well, going back to the city council, it kind of seems like there's two schools of thought with the political thoughts here in Kerrville. And they've got different names and people call them what they will. But we have a group that's pretty progressive, wanting to make changes, quality of life, and improvements such as the river trail and the sports complex and things like that. Then we also have a group that pretty much opposes all projects, including the river trail, water reuse pond, the athletic complex. I mean, they're against most quality of life things that kind of where we wouldn't want to spend any tax dollars on certain things. I, for one, like quality of life projects. I like the city moving forward with certain things. I think if we don't vote anything through, we're just going to be a stagnant town, and I don't like that. What do you think about that kind of stuff?
I believe Kerrville needs to have progressive leadership. Kerrville is no longer what it was 30 years ago when my mom first came here and started her business. She is a minority-owned business for 30 years in the same location, and we have seen the changes. It's not like I just came out of nowhere. I have seen the changes of Kerrville. And in order for us to represent the poor, the minorities, and those that are 20 to 49, we need those type of changes. So many times I hear people in this age group and friends of mine that are very close, there's nothing to do. We did away with the sports center, so there's no bowling alley, and I was part of the Parks and Recreation Board. I was a Park and Recreation Board member right before we spoke about expanding the parks and doing the trail. So I was very much part of that. But we do need a progressive thought for the future of Kerrville. But it does have to make sense. We do have that fine line, and we're not going to make everybody happy. Me being here probably isn't making a lot of people happy, and that's okay, because if we are moving forward, change is always scary, but change is definitely necessary if we want good representation and if we want our children to grow up in the same beautiful city of Kerrville that we grew up. But we've got to change with the times.
Yeah. Sure. On a little bit of a lighter note, we had a comment on here, why are these guys sitting so close to each other? We have a small studio here. We would love funding if anyone's got any out there, honestly.
Yeah, if anybody would like to donate some studio space to us, we'd be happy to take it. So otherwise, we just are all really close in the community here.
So. We like each other. But Marty Leonard also had this comment here. He said he'd love to hear your thoughts on the relationship between the city and the county.
I think for many years there's always some type of relationship.
Every single election.
every single time.
Every politician campaigns on the promise of improving relations between the city and the county.
It's like stepbrothers or siblings fighting with each other because one wants to do one thing, the other one wants to do the other thing. We both like the common ground for the county and for the city, but where do we come together to make that happen? Everyone promises. I will make, like you said, I will work with the county. I will work with the city. There are 5 people that are in the city government right now that can't work with each other. So it is going to be hard. But what I think is that if there is some type of fresh voice out there, some voice of reason, some voice of coming together, some voice of compromising in some way, then I think it can work together. And I believe that, we're not always going to agree on anything, on a lot of things. But if we stop compromising, if we only speak on behalf of what you feel is right for the city or the county, and you don't open your ears or open your hearts to what is good for the citizens of the city, the citizens of the county, and what makes sense as far as payment goes, then this is why we're always fighting.
Yeah, that brings me to something else. I was kind of thinking about this earlier today. I think there's a difference between leaders and followers, and there's a difference between problem solvers and problem makers. A leader that's a problem solver will disagree with somebody about something, but they will bring their own ideas that help make that problem better. They won't just ask a bunch of questions to stir the pot or whatnot. Right. So, I think that's exactly right. You got to work together. You can agree to disagree and come up with a solution still.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So.
And speaking of leadership and experience, you alluded to a couple of the boards that you've been on. Can you recap for us just kind of some of the different places that you've already served, some of the things, whether it's in Kerrville or in other cities?
Sure.
Private or public, or
yeah. So
boards and those kind of things.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I get so excited about talking about politics. My mom looks at me like, "Oh my God, why? Why are you talking about politics?"
I think all our family members ask us about that.
They're nuts. So okay, let's start with Arlington. I ran for city council in Arlington, and I was chairman of the Teen Court Advisory Board. I was also chairman of the Young Professionals Network with the Metro Texas Association of Realtors. I was also the Texas liaison between Texas and the Texas Association of Realtors. I was on the Park and Recreations Board for the city of Kerrville. I ran for Kerrville City Council back when the UDC was coming out. And right now, I also sit, I'm very proud of this, I also sit on the board of director for Families and Literacies. Because I believe that community involvement is where we need to go. So not only do I get involved within the city, I also get involved within organizations and also with nonprofits, because I feel that a well-rounded citizen should know, not just go and speak for 3 minutes about something that you feel someone told you to tell you, but I feel that a well-rounded citizen should have an understanding of everything involved, the big picture, and not the tiny picture. That's why we can't get past anything, because people focus on just this little tiny thing and not the big picture. And so that's why I feel that I am a huge asset to the city of Kerrville, to the citizens of Kerrville. And this is why I feel that the city council, none of them know me. At all. They don't know me. But I think right now is the push for change, and the fact that none of them know me is a good reason to place me on there. And I don't come without qualifications. So that's my thing. I think that those who are watching right now, what I would like for them to do is Monday morning, call the city government, call the council members, call the mayor, and let them know to appoint Brandon Rodriguez to the city council. Let them know that you want true representation. True representation. I think that's what we need.
Yeah.
And just a quick follow-up to that too. Some of the things that the council might be considering when they're talking to people that they're going to want to appoint. It's a pretty time-consuming job. Only 2 meetings a month on a regular schedule, but then there are special meetings. You're going to be board liaison if you were appointed to some other boards. Tell us about, do you have the time and the ability to commit to doing these kinds of things if you were to be appointed?
So I do. One of the things about my position is that I own a real estate firm. So I am able to make time for the city. As a matter of fact, I do that already. As a board of director for Family Literacies, I had someone contact me and said they wanted to get their GED. What I did is I went immediately and met them there so that they can get it. That's the type of person that I am. So having the time is what I do have. And I can make the time if I don't, and I can reschedule my schedule. So what a perfect candidate to be placed into the city council. Someone who owns their own business, is a small business owner, and is able to make the time to be there as a liaison. But not just for city use, but any time that a organization in the city of Kerrville, minority-owned business, wants to speak to someone in the city government, the door will be open and not closed. My ears will be open and not closed. And I think that's what we need right now. And I think that's why there's so much fighting going on, And I wish that would stop. I really do. But I will be a voice, and I will speak just as much as people feel that they need to speak and tell us about their opinions. I will talk about our opinions as a minority here in Kerrville.
Going back to your beginning topic, you were saying a lot of things about younger people as well as artists, and it even says on the City of Kerrville website. We have a question here from Renee LaFaso here. Let me get back to it. What about local artists like myself who would really like a big budget local art projects to be geared towards us? So like bringing those local artists back into it. I think that's great. We have a great downtown. We have the Shell Hayes Mansion now. We have a lot of artists. I think bringing those artists even into that area would be great. What do you think about even exposing more of those local artists?
That's what we did before.
Yeah.
That's what the whole underground was about. It wasn't just about putting me on TV or just showcasing me. I wanted to showcase local artists, and that meant that whether they were singing, producing, painters, any type of art that they had, I think that we need that. As a matter of fact, the underground was so unique in the fact that KSAT 12 did an interview on us. And what better way to showcase anything besides having other news stations from around the area showcase these local artists? And I think that we're able, if we can do this right, we're able to work together and showcase these artists to over millions of people fairly easily.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, I think we've kind of covered a lot of topics. I think we're getting close to 26 minutes, I think, here. So we're kind of going a little bit long. But do you have anything else you'd like to share, Brandon?
Yeah, there most likely will be council members that get to see this at some point, we hope. So anything to make an appeal directly to them or to our regular voters out there too.
So here's the thing. What is important right now is that the council, if you are watching, citizens that are watching, is that we direct the council into making a decision for appointment of diversity. We need a diverse council right now, more than anything, to be there. And they have that opportunity to put someone in there. As I mentioned before, I do not come without any qualifications. I'm not just someone that came out of the blue. I have been positioned and been doing stuff within this community on the front and back ends. And we need that type of change. If we want to be a progressive city, if we want to be an all-inclusive city, if we want to make the type of change that everyone always talks about, then they've got to make the change right now. And the way they do that is they make sure that they don't put the same old into that council. I know in the past there have been people that have been recommended to be placed on the council who were affiliated with certain people on the council. Is that really what we need right now? Do we need more arguments? Do we need more people to go against what progression in city is? No. We need someone not affiliated with anyone on that council. We need someone that is a minority, and we need that type of representation. Citizens and council members, I urge you to do that when you make that decision. I urge you to make that progressive decision on placing someone of a minority into the council. This is not about race. Not at all. This is about progression. I am Brandon Rodriguez, and please call your council members and mayor and have them appoint me. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks,
we appreciate
Brandon.
it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
One last comment here. There's, like you said, call your council members and let them know what you think. Doe Palestrant says here we need George Baruti on council. He's been well spoken up there, speaks on many topics. And Kerrville United, we invite him to come onto the show. Brandon, found out about him on Facebook. We haven't seen anything from George Baruti on Facebook yet, but he could get a hold of us, and we welcome anybody. This is what this is about, is communication. It's about education. It's about helping our community. So if George Baruti wants to come on the show, more power to him. We'd love to have him. So.
And that would be great for him to do that.
Yeah,
it gives
for
him a
sure.
chance and an avenue to talk about what it is that he wants to change instead of sitting there for 3 minutes talking about the same thing he's been talking about. Now, I'm not going against George or anything like that, but come on up.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for him to come. We want him to come. That'd be awesome. And George is a citizen in this community, and he does a lot of time with Little League Baseball, and he's very passionate about what he's passionate about, so that's good.
That's right. Yeah, and this is a good time, like Brandon said, if you have somebody that you are supporting, whether it might be Brandon or George or somebody else that we haven't talked about yet, this is time to call your council members and tell them what you think, because this is a tough decision for them. They're appointing a third person, to be appointed rather than elected, so they want to be able to get this right too. So give them your input and your feedback. Like Russell said, if anybody else is interested in being a guest, we'd love to have them. We'll say Brandon is our first official guest on the Kerrville United program.
Yeah.
It's good to have somebody else's face on here besides just Russell and myself. So
good for the viewers anyway.
Thanks so much for all your comments. We've had a lot of them coming in. I hope we got to most of your questions. Feel free to keep those comments coming. I know Brandon will be watching that feed, and maybe he can address you personally later on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. We appreciate all the feedback, but like we said in the past, both positive and negative. We want y'all to have a great evening. Thanks for joining us live. That worked out very well, and we want to say thanks for coming out, Kerrville.